Hello, welcome to the first day that we are not having a heat wave. It's only going to get into the 90s today after 3 days in a row of well over 100. Reached 116 yesterday, and discovered a problem in this hive. It actually exists in both hives, but it's minimal over there. It's a bigger deal in this one, and discovered this because I was taking pictures to post on the interwebs showing the progress that these girls have made storing all that nectar, all that beautiful nectar that they are converting to honey. And while I was looking at the picture, I started thinking, wait, what is that line behind that cap? Less obvious here because the cap is turned horizontal, but here where the pole is vertical, you can see there's a line across there. And that one's very full. This one down here in the very end looks like it's empty. There's nothing in that one. But all the rest of them have some level of nectar inside there. There's not supposed to be anything behind those caps. Those are supposed to be, that's a channel where the honey comes out for harvesting. And until I crank a handle and crack those cells, there shouldn't be anything down there. The bees do not have access to that area, but they have filled up with nectar that is, well, it's uncured honey. It's somewhere between nectar and honey. It's got the enzyme and inversase enzyme, I believe it's called. The bees put into that nectar and then they dehydrate or evaporate the water down to 18%, and then it's honey. It's not there yet. Stuff that's leaked down in there, I believe, my theory is that in the heat wave, those plastic frames expanded, and in some of those cells, randomly throughout the hive, the wax seals failed, and whatever nectar / honey was stored in the said cells found its way down to the harvesting trough there on the bottom, where normally during harvesting it would run out through a tube that we insert into that hole and into a collecting vessel, mason jar, would I be using. So we have a problem. While getting things ready for my nectar rescue tomorrow morning, discovered this. The ants have learned of the nectar leak. They are in all the cracks trying to get into that harvest door. Some of them are behind it. And they're on both hives. They're crawling up the legs. Those legs have Vaseline smeared on them. Was supposed to create a barrier that the ants would not cross. But over here on the other hive, they've done the same thing. And they're in smaller numbers because I worked on them earlier today trying to eliminate them, but they were all behind this door. So I came out and did the other trick, which is to rub toothpaste on the legs. And that's supposed to create a barrier that they don't want to cross because of the mint, but nope, they crossed it too. So plan C, water dishes, you can make a moat around the legs, but it won't be complete until after I lift the other end of the hive and put dishes under all 4 legs, and then I'll be doing that to both hives. What might this be? They are. Harvesting shelf. Bread pan, which I think is going to be the perfect vessel for catching multiple chambers at once. Go ahead and I think we'll do 4. These are the caps. Taking them off for harvesting, and there's not supposed to be anything behind them until I am harvesting, but that's our problem, is that there's nectar in there that shouldn't be there. And because there's nectar up here, it's leaking. These are not designed to be a tight seal. They're just designed to keep insects out. They managed to hold the nectar in pretty well, but not perfectly. That nectar's been leaking, and because it's been leaking, it drew ants. Ants are all over this thing, or have been. I actually have an air gun out here. I've been using an air gun as a means of blowing the ants off the hive. Pretty effective. This is a flow hive harvesting tube. Plugs into that hole. I got enough of them for all of those. And inside there's a little weep hole for when you've harvested honey and you're done. You can sit there all day waiting for the last little drops to come out, or you can just pull the tube out and put the cap back in the hole. This little tab breaks the propolis that they've made out of that weep or bleed back hole. So those extra little drops that you can't wait around all day for will drip back into the hive, and they will eat them, reuse them. Honey not lost, honey repurposed. But in this case, this nectar would have never built up in the first place. Never would have built up in the first place if I had maybe had some inkling that this was going to happen. I could have opened up those weep holes early, and then at the rate at which the nectar was leaking down into these chambers, it would have just been going back into that leak back. They would have been catching it and restowing it, as opposed to it just building up. So this is not harvesting honey, but it's similar in a lot of ways. I will not be cracking any frames. We're just getting that nectar out of those bottom troughs. Not supposed to be there. And so we are ready. Sledgehammer. What am I going to hit? Well, nothing. This is just a really nice and controlled way for me to lift the front of the hive and remove this block. There you go. Keep your eye on the tubes. Here it comes. It's faster than honey, but not real fast. Tube number one here, dribbling away. And now it's possible that when I tip this hive back, some of that nectar found its way out the other end if they don't have it completely propolised. Up here we are, lane 4. Coming in second place. Takes a lot of bees, a lot of work to gather all that nectar. It would be a shame to have just let it go to waste or spill everywhere. We'll catch as much as we can. But I am surprised I'm not seeing more coming out of tubes 2 and 3. I do see it in there. It's just not very deep. This would be a case of let it run back through that bleed back hole, and they can have it on the inside of the hive. It may come through real slow. They can keep up with it. This hasn't stopped them from filling up the frames though. Just about every place where it leaked that I can see from the end, which I can only see a few of them. These leaks are all scattered throughout. But there's definitely a chamber right here. I'll bring the camera in closer to that in a little bit. Definitely one of the places where the leaking happened. And here we are, lane 3, coming real slow. Let's tip the tube down just a little bit. And it's true It looked like a lot of nectar was up against the glass, or up against those windows, but in reality, because my hive was tipped forward, it was less than it appeared to be. That, or I already gave it back to them when I tipped the hive up. It's very possible that some of it just ran out the other side. This is going to give them something to do. You see a proboscis extending up through that bleed back hole, lapping up the nectar as it's trying to drip back into the hive. It won't be long, and I suspect we will see lots and lots of this activity. Anyways, that is the honeybee tongue, known as the proboscis. Yep, there's the second one showed up. Part tongue, part straw. Let's see if I can't zoom in here, get you a little better shot. Here we are. No tripod here, holding this in my hands. Difficulty holding it still, but shortly I think we will see. Yep, there comes. I see a little face on there. There we are. What's going on up here? Hey, there's sticky stuff. I taste nectar. Yep, look at that. So they will clean all that up. Oh, there's a dribble. That's got to run out outside the hive because I don't have the cap in place. That's one of the ones we wanted to catch in the pan, but it's too late now. Oh no. I'm going to have to get a rag and clean that up. Oh, there it goes again. Second one. All the stuff I wanted to catch. Just did not want to run into the tube. For whatever reason. Look at that there. There they are trying really fast to contain it all. And while we're waiting for that, these little plastic trays are what I'm using for moats. And you see right down there, I've already got one under that leg. That's the front. There's one under the other front leg too. Did those earlier this morning. And those are full of water so that the ants would have to swim across the water to get to the legs of the hive, which is their only way onto the hive. That or, falling out of a tree, which is not really what ants do. So that's my method for keeping the ants off the hive. Water moats around the legs. These are the plastic trays that electrical tape comes in. And I have a lot of them. They're nice for putting screws and other little knickknacks in the garage. And I wanted nice clean ones, so I just went ahead and unpackaged a case of electrical tape last night so I could get 8 of these things for my 8 hive legs. We'll go ahead and install these right now while we're waiting for any drips. Doesn't look like we're going to see any nectar out of those last 2 there. Bring it a little closer again. You see how much nectar's in that pan. It's not a lot, but if you were a bee, you would think that was Niagara Falls right there. That is a lot in all actuality. Let's open up the side window here. Let me show you what these girls have been up to. Look at that. That is uncapped honey in every visible cell. They are full. And what they're doing, as well as continuing to fill up other cells that aren't full, that aren't in this window, is they're working across, checking on the quality of that honey to see if it's honey yet. It is in the process of becoming honey, and when it's ready, when it's dry enough, the water content is down to 18% and below, then it's honey, and they will put lids on all those cells, wax caps, sealing them in, keeping it, well, literally. They found honey in Pharaoh's tombs. It was perfectly good, and it was very, very old. In the right conditions, honey will last pretty much forever. So, close that up, leave them be, leave them to their work, and I'm gonna go ahead and get this buttoned up. Rinse and repeat, and do it all again right over there. And there it is. And Cascade over here only had one chamber to be dealt with. It was pretty anticlimactic, but I did make sure that those bleed back ports were clear on all 6 frames. So if there's any continued leakage, it'll go right back to the girls immediately instead of storing up in there like it did in almost every frame over here. The last 2 that I did over here were also kind of anticlimactic. There was a little bit of nectar in there, but nothing like there was in those, you know, it's 1 and 4 I think that had the most. But either way, everything's back together, closed up. We are ant free. I've installed moats under all 4 legs of both hives, water in them. I used my trusty air gun to blow the ants off. There's a few still hiding out on there, and as they turn up throughout the day, as I see them, I'll blow them off. And getting rid of any pest involves removing the source of food that's attracting them in the first place, or cutting off their access to that source of food. So, done a little bit of both here. Got rid of the nectar leak, installed moats, we've cut off their access, and I've installed bait. That's the second step of getting rid of a pest. Install your bait or your traps so that food source gone, new source is the trap or the thing that takes them out. So we're all set. With any luck, there won't be any more surprises, and because this was unforeseen, that heat wave here in Western Washington, unheard of, absolute record high heats, and literally the first week of summer. I mean, just crazy. We've never had anything like that before. We're lucky to see 90s this time of the year. It's usually 80s max. And here we saw 116 degrees on the day that I discovered the problems on the hives. Caused a lot of problems. And we had our water heater fail, we had pipe or hoses burst, we had air conditioning blow out in the car. Nothing that runs normal the rest of the year is prepared for unusual heat. If you live in a hotter climate, all that stuff has been sorted out, but when you don't live in a hotter climate, it surprises you when it happens. Sadly, Mom lost 2 of her chickens. They died in the heat, and I feel badly that we didn't catch it sooner and do something to prevent that. So we lost 2 of our most prolific layers, and one of those girls was a very sweet French Marin chicken. She liked to nuzzle, she liked to be hugged and cuddled. And of course, who wouldn't be in love with that? And sadly, she didn't make it. So we lost 2 of our chickens, 2 of our hens. And then, right after the very first part of this video where I came out and handheld camera showed you the problem that I was facing here, that was 2 days ago. And literally moments later, Mom discovered the chickens. And then within 2 minutes of doing that, she stumbled and fell and caught herself on one of my fence posts with her little finger. She broke and dislocated the end of her little finger. So we spent the rest of that day in urgent care, getting her finger x-rayed and worked on. So Anyway, no fun. Heat waves wreck everything. So, anyways, all that said, if no other surprises happen, the next video I make should be honey harvesting, and I think we're getting pretty close on that. I imagine within a couple weeks they'll have this stuff all capped up. Maybe sooner, I don't know. This is my first go around with honey harvesting, so but it's pretty amazing how much that they have brought in, how much nectar, and how fast they filled that hive up. So last year, we didn't see any, at least none for me. But this year, it's a good year. So that's it. Sign off, and I will see you all real soon. As always, be safe, be kind, and what do I say? Be happy. Peace. My name's Poe. People call me Poe.